Hello again and welcome to day number 203. My name is Mary and today's story is the Old Testament part 2. When Ezra finished writing this book of the law, he traveled from Babylon to Judea, taking with him the rolls of the book. With Ezra went a company of men he had taught to love the law, to write copies of it, to read it, and to teach it to others. These men who gave their lives to studying, copying, and teaching the law were called scribes, a word that means writers. Ezra was the first and greatest of these scribes, but from then on there were many scribes among the Jews, both in Judea and in other lands. For whenever the Jews lived, they began to read the Bible and loved it. The time came soon after Ezra's day when every place where the Jews met to worship had at least one copy of all the books in the Old Testament. Then there was no danger that the Bible or any part of it would be lost. You remember that there was only one temple for all the Jews in the world, and only one altar. On this one altar, and only there, they offered the sacrifice every day, but the Jews in distant places needed to meet together for worship. And there grew up what became called synagogues, a word that means coming together. At first, they met in a room, but afterward, they built houses for the synagogues, much like our churches. Some of these synagogues were large and beautiful, and the people met there every week to worship God, sing the Psalms, hear the law and the prophets read, and talk together about what they had heard. It was something like a prayer meeting for any Jew who wanted to speak in the meeting could do so. The men sat on mats laid on the floor. The rulers of the synagogue were on seats raised up above the rest. The women were in a covered gallery on one side where they could see and hear but could not be seen. And on the end of the room nearest Jerusalem, there was a large box called the Ark, within which were kept the copies of the books of the Old Testament. Through the synagogue, all the Jews in the world listened to the reading of the Old Testament until many of them knew every word by heart. All this happened because of Ezra's work, copying and teaching the word of the Lord. Ezra did another work almost as great as that of giving the Bible to the world. He taught the Jewish people, first in Israel and then in other lands, that they were the people of God and must live apart from other nations. If they had gone on marrying women of other races who worshipped other gods. After a time, there would have been no Jews and no worshippers of God. Ezra made some of them give up their foreign wives and taught the Jews to be a people by themselves, keeping away from those who worshipped idols. In this way, Ezra led the Jews to look on themselves as a holy people, giving to the service of God. He taught them to live apart from other nations, which their own customs and ways of living, and be very exact in obeying the laws of God. And that was the word of the Lord. Now we come to our discussion questions. Number 1, what is a scribe? What is a scribe? Number 2, what happened when there were many scribes among the Jews? What happened when there were many scribes among the Jews? Number 3, what was a synagogue? What was a synagogue meeting like? What was a synagogue? What was a synagogue meeting like? How was the temple different from a synagogue? Number 4, how was the temple different from a synagogue? Question number 5 and last, why was Ezra's work important to the people of God? Why was Ezra's work important to the people of God? And with that last question, we come to the end of our day number 203. It's good to have you all attending, and may God bless us all. Till next time. Bye-bye now.